What if I told you that one of the best dunkers in NBA history is someone almost everyone forgot about? A player so athletic and explosive, he made dunking over defenders look easy. Yes, Shawn Kemp was a 6-time All-Star who helped lead the Seattle SuperSonics to the 1996 NBA Finals with the most violent dunks the league had ever seen. But despite his rise, his career ended in one of the NBA's most tragic downfalls. He showed up to training camps overweight, checked himself into rehab for addictions, and never reached his old form again. So how did it all fall apart, and what made him such a dominant dunker in the first place? Well, to find out, we have to go back to late 1989. Shawn Kemp, who was drafted 17th by the Seattle SuperSonics in the 1989 NBA draft, has been slowly developing as a rookie power forward under the guidance of veteran Xavier McDaniel.
We were close like buddies. You know, we had like a good one-on-one relationship, and he gave me a lot of guidance when it came to life and stuff like that. I just looked at him as someone that I could talk to, someone I could depend on.
But for some reason, Kemp has been hiding the insane athletic skills that he routinely showcased during his high school career at Concord in Elkhart, Indiana from the NBA. Yet, some advice from his mother was about to change everything.
Well, my mom had told me something, man. She said, well, don't do none of that fancy shit until you get to somewhere good. Guard, stop, bro. Referee stopped, the ball just bounced. Pat Riley called a timeout. Shh. Yelling at his players because nobody was moving. It was an a little bit. You know, I felt the crowd. I felt the shit.
While Seattle did lose this game to New York, Shawn's insane double pump reverse in-game dunk marked a huge turning point in his career. But it was actually something else that he did which had a larger impact.
And I made this note, man. I would make this note so on my bathroom mirror, me and my partners, man, anybody that we was play that was like a 7-footer, we would cut a picture off of it and put it on my damn mirror in my bathroom.
Got all of them.
And then I was like, you know, they was like, you gotta get this picture. And my boys would be like, you gotta get this picture.
All of them.
I was like, why don't we just get everybody? Guards, big man, dunking. I was trying to rip it.
Take the rim.
Meaning
it. Damn it.
However, dunking wasn't the only thing Kemp was great at, because a few games before that fateful battle with the Knicks, Shawn would highlight his other main skill.
Come out on the court, they say, hey, Shawn, you starting tonight against Larry. And I was like, what the hell? Well, first of all, he asked me to jump ball. He said, you the cat that broke all my records in high school, right? And I was like, yeah, that's me. He goes, yeah, you're the one that used to dunk my brother too, right? Like Eddie. And I was like, yeah, that's me. He said, I got you for you tonight. So every shot he was calling, at the defensive end, he would tell me, next time, bank shot left side. I'm gonna pump fake you. You're done, you'll go for it.
He would tell you that, and it happened.
And what you think he did, man? A quick pump fake, dog, and you go for that.
Got you.
Man, come on, man. I guarded his ass so tough that after the game, he came, he sent a little letter over there to me. He was like, I've had nobody play defense that hard on me.
I love it.
He go, I appreciate you playing out here. Then he was like, I got a little All-Star game. Why don't you come work out with me? Come to All-Star game, man. Let me see that summer. I was like, that meant everything to me.
While Shawn Kemp got absolutely bodied by Larry Bird, who dropped a 40-point triple-double on his head, the raw effort and energy the Indiana native played with started to see him earn respect from everyone around the league. To make things even better, his 20-point night versus the San Antonio Spurs late in the 1989-1990 season, and Shawn's solid 6.5 point and 4.3 rebound averages in just 13 minutes of play proved that despite never stepping foot onto a college basketball court, Kemp had an incredibly bright future. One that got a whole lot brighter after the 1990 NBA draft.
With the second pick in the 1990 NBA draft, the Seattle SuperSonics select Gary Payton from Oregon State.
Shawn, as soon as I got there, Shawn just embraced me. Me and him started hanging out all the time. And we was together all the time. And then in practice, I always used to tell him, I said, all you gotta do is just say one word, and I know it. And then I told him, once you say, woo, I know you're gonna be there. But if you see me stealing the ball, just start sprinting, because I'm gonna get most of the 50-50 balls. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna rip whoever, and I'm gonna get most of them balls. And once I take off, you need to take off too, and all I'm gonna do is throw it up.
Gary Payton, a standout point guard from Oregon State, was the perfect addition for the insane athletic talents of Shawn Kemp. And on December 7th, 1990, everything changed for the former 17th pick. Because against the Orlando Magic, the second-year forward was shifted into Seattle's starting lineup. An incredibly risky decision made by new head coach Casey Jones. Yet, Kemp's 18-point debut as an NBA starter and his follow-up versus the Milwaukee Bucks of 31 sure made his leader seem like a genius. However, it wasn't all perfect for Kemp. As his sudden sophomore rise saw his mentor and close friend Xavier McDaniel traded away in order to make room for Shawn's dominance. A move which devastated the second-year forward. But Kemp was forming another great relationship with someone else on their roster.
Gary was like, he said, for now, man, I don't give a if you run down court now, I'm just gonna start throwing this mother because you bullshit. He said, so when I get the ball, look here, I'm just gonna throw this to the rim. You just go up there and get it. I don't give a
Thanks to Payton's passing talents and Shawn's vicious mindset, plus the Seattle weather, Shawn Kemp would receive one of the most iconic nicknames in NBA history from a reporter, the Rainman. Yet, it wasn't just dunking and insane defensive effort the brand new NBA starter was showcasing to the whole league, as against the Los Angeles Lakers and their superstar point guard, Magic Johnson, the Rainman would go out and record a shocking 10 blocks.
Magic spins to the inline underhand finger roll, blocked by Kemp. Ellis cannot get there in time, out of bounds.
Kemp would then round out the season having doubled his point average to 15.3 points, whilst also pulling down 8.7 boards and blocking 1.6 shots each night. And it was all thanks to these stats that Shawn Kemp was about to embark on a brand new journey, the playoffs. So could Seattle make history and become the first 8 seed ever to defeat a number 1 seed? May 4th, 1991. After an intense battle between the Pacific Northwest rivals throughout the first 4 games of the series, Kemp's 12.3 point, 8 rebound, and 1 block averages meant that this series all came down to this. Game 5. Win or go home. Therefore, Shawn came out and continued to showcase how vicious and powerful of a dunker he truly was. Kemp was throwing down putbacks,
To Johnson, followed by Kemp.
slamming in lobs,
Great offensive rebounding team. Huge play for Kemp.
and even did this nice double clutch slam. However, the Rainman's 17-point night was unfortunately not enough to make NBA history. But there was one positive. The Seattle SuperSonics had found their duo of the future. As throughout the 1991-1992 regular season, the connection between Payton and Kemp only grew stronger. Combine this with Shawn Kemp still doing Shawn Kemp things.
Here comes Gatling, swats it away. Kemp powers in with a jam. Gatling got a piece of it, comes up and says,
As well as his 15.5 point average, Seattle going one step further this postseason seemed more and more likely. However, internally, issues were starting to boil over. The coach who had helped to skyrocket the Rainman's career was fired, and while Shawn was awaiting the news of who Seattle was going to hire, he received a phone call from Spain?
hello, and I said hello. He said, Shawn, this is George Karl, your new coach of the Seattle SuperSonics. I just want you to know you're not in the starting lineup no more.
And hung up?
I was like, I don't give a damn, I hung up.
While Coach Karl did actually go through with his promise on the phone, Kemp's anger at this decision, which he showed by literally trying to rip the rim off, saw George, after 24 games, backtrack his shocking move. Yet, while their new leader's methods did frustrate his players, the crazy ideas and new approach on both sides of the floor did bring success, as the SuperSonics would go on to win 47 games that season, earning them another playoff berth and a first-round matchup against the Golden State Warriors. So, could the young Sonics actually make it out of the first round this time, or were they forever doomed to be stuck in the initial playoff series? April 25th, 1992. After the Rainman destroyed Golden State's defense in Game 1 by dropping an incredible 28 points and grabbing 16 rebounds, the Warriors were hungry for revenge. So, not only would they come out in the second battle and up their play, but their big man, Alton Lister, literally took out his frustration on Kemp.
There we go, we're getting into it now. That's not a smart play. No, Kemp is down, bodies all over the place. George Karl running out on the court.
And I told his ass, get your old ass back.
3 days later, with the series tied at 1 win apiece and Seattle finding themselves down 1 point with 7.5 seconds remaining, if Kemp can't find a way to get his team a bucket, Golden State will be just a single win away from eliminating them from their second playoffs in a row.
Get the pass cross court and a foul on a drive to the hoop. Shot basket. Shot.
Trying to do that. 6.1. The ball in Tim Hardaway's hands. That's plenty of time to get it down and get a good shot. I'm real surprised they don't have Benjamin up there around the basket just in case there's a miss.
But there's not. All bottom. Seattle by 1. Off the drive, it is Hardaway. Running out of clock. Mullen passes to Marcianonis, who gets it away. Short. Sonics lead it 2 games to 1.
However, while Shawn had gotten his revenge against Golden State for their victory in Game 2, he was yet to make good on his promise to Alton Lister. But with 6 minutes remaining in the second quarter of Game 4, this happened. Thanks to what was not only dubbed the Lister Blister, but what was arguably the most disrespectful dunk in NBA history, it would in fact be Seattle moving past the first round of the playoffs in Game 4. Yet, what was about to happen in their second round series versus the Utah Jazz would change both Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton's careers forever. Karl Malone, a 6'9" power forward and Utah's 13th pick back in the 1985 NBA draft, had been slowly growing into one of the best two-way big men in the whole league. But it was on the defensive side of the floor against his new rival, Shawn Kemp, where Malone did his damage, because Karl was able to significantly impact the Rainman's scoring.
On Malone. And Karl Malone with a clean pick,
holding him to just 41% from the field and severely reducing his points to just 13.8 per contest. A defensive undertaking which saw Malone's Jazz moving on in emphatic fashion, dominating the series 4 games to 1. And it was Shawn Kemp's struggles which saw his franchise considering making some shocking changes.
They was threatening to trade me and Gary.
Damn.
Yeah.
But rather than pouting or becoming upset with the threats, both Kemp and Payton did this.
So that summer we looked up, we was like, well, if we ain't gonna go out unless it's a fight. We about to show they ass something this year. So we went the whole summer, and that's kind of when we started working out in Vegas with Gerd. Working on that game in Vegas, working on that mid-range game, just mid-range, 2 points here, 2 points there, bouncing left hand, right hand off the glass. And then that's what made my game take off, bro.
November 6, 1992. In Seattle's debut game for the 1992-1993 season, in a matchup versus the Houston Rockets in Japan, the insane work ethic Shawn possessed was on full display, as not only was Kemp again trying to rip the Japanese rims off,
look out, oh, hurt the rim in Yokohama.
But the Rainman was highlighting an improved shooting touch around the hoop, allowing the Sonic star to drop 29 points. But this was only the start for Shawn Kemp, as not only would he sign a shoe deal with Reebok, but his dominance on the court only grew stronger, because not only would he then go out and put 35 points on the Atlanta Hawks' heads, but his improved play would see the former 17th pick be named to his first ever All-Star game, and Seattle finishing with an even better 55-win record. However, in the first round of the playoffs, against the same team who sent them packing just a year ago, the Seattle SuperSonics once again found themselves in a win or go home situation. To make things even worse, as the second quarter came to a close, Seattle had only managed to score 30 points, meaning another first round exit seemed more and more likely. Yet, Shawn Kemp wasn't going to let his team down. Motivated to get revenge on his rival Malone, the Rainman opened his second half by doing this. Then connecting with his running mate Payton in pick and roll. Shawn Kemp's masterful 12 minutes had placed Seattle 12 points ahead entering the final period, in which Seattle would then finish off their Western Conference rival and were now moving on to the second round. But with their sudden rise in play, a brand new question arose. Could they actually make it past the second round of the postseason, or had they just fluked their way into first round series victories? May 22nd, 1993. Once again, in what was becoming a standard for the Seattle SuperSonics, the Washington franchise found themselves in yet another win or go home situation. But this time, it was against a brand new opponent, the Houston Rockets, a squad led by their own star big man, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. Olajuwon, the 1984 #1 pick, alongside some smart defensive schemes from Houston head coach Rudy Tomjanovich, saw the brakes be placed on the Rainman. Kemp would not only spend his whole Game 7 facing the much bigger Hakeem, but constant double teams, meaning when he did score, he had to do things like this. And with less than a minute remaining and the scores tied, Olajuwon's defense was critical.
If they get Perkins to make the Houston Rockets react.
So, with Houston scoring on the following play, could Seattle either tie or take the lead with 32 seconds left?
Ricky Pierce on Maxwell, so they're coming right back with it posted.
They're posting up Pierce.
Pierce over Maxwell. It's a tough 10-footer to tie it at 93.
Ricky Pierce, who now had scored a game-high 25 points with his beautiful fadeaway, had saved Seattle. Yet, could they get it done in overtime and move on to the Western Conference Finals? Well, while Hakeem had held Kemp to just 14 points on a horrible 36% from the field, the Rainman would ultimately get the last laugh.
On the shot clock, Kemp. Shawn Kemp was 16 and a 4-point Sonic lead.
But the real hero of this epic battle was Sonic's big man, Sam Perkins, who did this. Perkins' 23 points and Kemp's clutch free throws would see the SuperSonics moving on to the Western Conference Finals. But what happened next, you truly aren't going to believe. The Seattle SuperSonics were in another win or go home situation against the Phoenix Suns. It's almost expected at this point, but anyway. June 5th, 1993, Game 7. While the Rainman had received his iconic nickname from a reporter, his running mate, Gary Payton, would receive his very own from his cousin.
He was like, glove, glove, glove. I was like, man, wrong number, and hung up the phone. And then all of a sudden, he hit me back. He was like, cuz, don't hang up, this your cousin Clean. He was like, I was like, man, why you call me glove? He was like, because you got Kevin Johnson, like a baseball in the mitt, and a baseball glove wrapped so tight. And I said, man, that's pretty good, because I do play defense like that.
However, the Phoenix Suns' other star, Charles the Round Mound of Rebound Barkley, was destroying Seattle, as during this fateful night in which the winner moved on to the NBA Finals, Barkley would top his 43-point Game 5 performance by scoring a mind-boggling 44, which, to be fair, also included 22 free throws.
Barkley shot 22 goddamn free throws.
Yeah, man, it was cheap, man.
Despite the Rainman and the Glove's best efforts, this was the final stop on their 1993 championship journey. Yet, the SuperSonics were clearly a team on the rise. In fact, by the end of the 1993-1994 season, it was actually Seattle who managed to hold the Western Conference's best record, and this wasn't the only positive for the Sonics. Firstly, Kemp had released his own signature shoe line with Reebok, known as the Kamikazes. Secondly, the legend who had guided his team to win the last 3 NBA championships, Michael Jordan, had just retired, meaning the SuperSonics' road to their franchise's second title seemed incredibly clear. Finally, their path was only made brighter when you consider the fact that they held a commanding 2-0 lead in the first round of the playoffs against the 8th-seeded Denver Nuggets.
We're here to sweep, but in the playoffs, you got to take one game at a time. If we can go to Denver and sweep and get some rest, I think it'd be good for them.
However, not only would the Nuggets secure a victory in Game 3, but Denver would go on to rewrite the NBA history books on May 7th, 1994.
That's it. Macumbo embraces the ball, and the unlikely upset, one of the great upsets in NBA playoff history. The 8th seed, a team that was 2 games over 500 on the season. The Denver Nuggets, youngest in the NBA, have beaten the team with the best record in the NBA, the Seattle SuperSonics.
With Denver's victory in the 5th and final matchup, the Nuggets had become the very first 8th seed to defeat a number 1 seed in the postseason, crushing Shawn Kemp's NBA championship dreams. Yet, it only got worse. As due to Shawn's struggles during the final 3 matchups, only averaging 15 points on 41% shooting, Seattle was considering moving in a very different direction.
Been a lot of talk about trade discussions between the Chicago Bulls and the Seattle SuperSonics.
According to George Karl in his book, Furious George, the Chicago Bulls general manager, Jerry Krause, contacted the Sonics and began initiating a deal. Chicago would receive Shawn Kemp and the Sonics would get Scottie Pippen in return, a transaction which Michael Jordan himself, again according to Karl, told George that the team should do. So the deal was agreed to, at least in principle. However, once Seattle fans got wind of this deal via a leak, they became furious. Therefore, the SuperSonics owner, Barry Ackley, decided to have his team back out of the deal. Scottie Pippen remained a Bull, and the Rainman stayed in Seattle. Yet, during the 1994-1995 season, not much changed for the Sonics. Outside of Shawn setting a brand new career high of 42 points during an overtime victory against the Los Angeles Clippers, Kemp and his SuperSonics remained stagnant. In fact, after another shocking first-round exit, this time against the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1995 playoffs, saw the whole league begin to assume that Seattle would never get anywhere. To make this point even more potent, after Seattle literally made 0 offseason moves other than changing their logo, which, let's be honest, was a great move. This logo is just incredible. Bring back the Sonics. Anyway, first round, or maybe if they got lucky, second round exits seemed to be their ceiling. Or was it? November 21st, 1995, after their 5th loss of the season to the Toronto Raptors, which moved their record to a subpar 6-5, their dream turnaround seemed so far away. Yet, Kemp would just remain focused on what truly mattered to him.
I have fun on the court, and that's one of the reasons that I've been successful, because I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. I love playing the game. I just want to play basketball.
A mindset which, combined with his new career high best of averaging 19.6 points, 11.6 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks per game, as well as Shawn Kemp continuing to do insanely athletic things.
Shawn Kemp is probably the all-time nastiest dunker in the NBA.
Really? That's what you give?
Yes, I give it to Shawn Kemp.
During game action, in traffic?
In traffic, by the body, and then putting antics on them, right. Because the antics are what make a dunk, when you dunk a ball and you run down the court, you got to put some antics with it.
The Seattle SuperSonics had once again grabbed the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. But could they really make it past the first round? Was the Rainman's sudden rise in play actually enough for them to win a championship? Well, Sacramento Kings guard Mitch Richmond's explosion of 37 points in Game 2 of their first round series, a performance which tied it at 1 apiece, saw most fans begin to write off the Sonics for a 3rd year in a row. Yet, the Rainman wasn't going to go down without a fight. Shawn Kemp, the player Seattle drafted straight out of high school all those years ago, was hungry to shut all of his doubters up. So he did this.
Marking against Grant, going in strong. Shawn Kemp, devastating.
Not only was Shawn playing with incredible force, but the connection between the Rainman and the glove was on full display all game long.
Shots, and once again, the lob pass.
Seattle, thanks to Kemp's dominant 23-point performance after 3 long seasons, had finally broken free of their first round curse. However, their next challenge was not only a team hell-bent on getting revenge for their 1993 failure, but one who had just won 2 NBA championships in a row.
All right, Shawn, now you got the Rockets. They've got a couple of tough customers inside. Tell me your thoughts going into that series.
Well, we got to deal with the dream now, and we got to deal with the outside shooters they got. They play with a lot of heart, a lot of intensity. They're a true champion. We got our work cut out for us, but the thing we got to play in Seattle, and we got our fans behind us, and we're looking forward to it.
Yet this time around, it wasn't Hakeem dominating on the defensive end. No, because Shawn Kemp, despite being slightly undersized compared to Olajuwon, would go on to hold the Dream to only average 18.3 points per game, well below his season average of 26.3. But of course, it wasn't just the defensive talents of the Rainman which Seattle needed the most, as Kemp's masterful 32-point and 15-rebound performance in Game 4 would be the cherry on top of what was an incredible 4-0 sweep of the defending NBA champions. But once again, you're gonna be shocked. The Western Conference Finals between the Seattle SuperSonics and their rival, the Utah Jazz, all came down to this. Game 7, win or go home. Seattle really should be called the Game 7 Sonics, or maybe the Super Game 7s. If you have something better, which let's be honest, you probably do, comment it below. Anyway, motivated to make it to the championship round for the first time, Shawn Kemp was doing everything from post-up buckets,
Can't miss, a big story for the Utah Jazz.
to throwing crucial assists,
Kemp. Payton out of the corner for 3.
Shawn's offensive prowess was vital. But it wasn't the most important thing he did during this intense matchup, because whenever the Rainman matched up with his rival, Karl Malone, Shawn was proving who was the more impactful player for their franchise.
Down low and gets it back. Powers up, comes up short.
Kemp's impressive effort in not only locking down Malone, but also dropping 24 points and securing 14 rebounds, sure made it seem like Seattle was guaranteed to move on to the NBA Finals. However, after Karl Malone did this,
For Malone, who got it? 87-86.
Seattle found themselves in a dire situation. They were only up by a single point, and given the amount of time left, Utah would get another opportunity to get a bucket. Therefore, Shawn Kemp knew what he had to do.
To the basket, you want to try to get the whistle if you can. Shawn Kemp.
And Foster gets the foul called against him. 8 of 9 from the free throw line.
But John Stockton can break down the defense and get by Askew. Missed it.
But one question remained. Could they actually get a defensive stop?
Malone will inbound. Stockton, Benoit, Russell, all on the floor. Stockton for Malone to the basket. And he'll shoot 2 tonight. They have been on him about his free throws the entire series.
Tips that free throw back out for 3.
He missed them both. Seattle with the ball and the whistle. Brian Russell for 3. The leader, no. Rebound, Seattle, and it's over.
Yet, could they really win an NBA title? Because on March 18th, 1995, this happened.
I'm back. That's all Jordan said on Saturday. That was really all Jordan needed to say as his 17-month retirement came to an end.
While Michael Jordan had initially struggled during the 1994-1995 season, the acquisition of Dennis Rodman plus the resurgence of Jordan had seen the Bulls set a seemingly unbreakable regular season NBA record during their 1995-1996 campaign, winning 72 games while only losing 10. A streak that Chicago simply continued throughout the playoffs and now the NBA Finals. As once the final buzzer sounded in Game 3, it was Seattle who found themselves in an impossible hole, down 3 games to 0. Shawn Kemp would need a literal miracle to save his championship dreams. June 12, 1996, Gary the Glove Payton, who became the first ever guard to win the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year award this season, hadn't initially been tasked with guarding Michael Jordan. But why? Well, there's actually a really odd reason. Nate McMillan, who was Payton's backup at point guard, had been ruled out of games 2 and 3 of the finals due to issues within his back, and George Karl was afraid that if the Glove guarded Jordan, he may end up in foul trouble, thus leaving the team without a point guard. But with McMillan's return for Game 4, Coach Karl returned Payton to guarding MJ. Yet, could a 6'3" point guard really defend the Michael Jordan? Well, the Glove would put forth his best effort. Payton was making every single catch damn near impossible, and if Jordan did ever get the ball, Gary was ensuring that every MJ shot attempt was heavily contested. Gary Payton's incredible effort would see Michael only shoot 31% from the field throughout Game 4, and when you combine this with the Rainman's 25-point and 11-rebound night, the Seattle SuperSonics had lived to see another day. But this change was ultimately too little, too late. While Seattle did manage to win Game 5 as well, Chicago, after their record-setting season and the return of their centerpiece, wasn't going to leave the 1996 NBA season without a championship. Also, let me know what you think below. Do you believe if Gary Payton had guarded Jordan all series long, could Seattle have won? Or was Jordan going to win no matter what? However, despite this loss, the Rainman and the Glove were literally just 2 wins away from winning their first ever NBA championship. Therefore, all they needed to do was reload and try again in the following season, right? Well, the SuperSonics would sign a second-year big man, Jim McIlvaine from the Washington Bullets, to a 7-year, $35 million deal. A decision which had huge ramifications for the whole SuperSonics franchise, because Jim's contract was dramatically larger than Shawn's. McIlvaine, who had only averaged just 2.3 points in his last season, was set to make roughly $2 million more in the 1996-1997 season than Kemp.
But when it came time for payday, there was no phone call.
Therefore, angered by the situation, Shawn would sit out the majority of their training camp in protest, frustrated that the team he had given so much to had gone back on their word. However, Kemp faced a serious issue, as at the time, NBA contracts couldn't be renegotiated until they were over. Shawn Kemp, unless he got moved to a new team, was stuck, with his $100 million contract dream being out of reach. To make things even worse for the Rainman, Seattle would once again fail to live up to expectations, being sent home in just the second round of the playoffs by the Houston Rockets. But this wasn't all. Knowing just how upset and unwilling he was to represent their franchise, Seattle had to make a move. Therefore, Shawn Kemp was shifted in a sign and trade to the Cleveland Cavaliers, where the Rainman got his wish, a 7-year, $105 million contract. Yet, how would he perform no longer playing with his close friend the Glove and surrounded by 4 rookies and multiple sophomores? And was he really good enough to be a franchise player? November 1st, 1997. In his first game wearing a different uniform, Shawn Kemp continued to be Shawn Kemp, spinning baseline and dunking all over Spurs big man David Robinson, posting up into and-one layups, and showcasing his consistent mid-range jumper. Kemp's 26-point and 10-rebound night showed Cavs fans exactly what to expect. However, Shawn was set to face a brand new issue, one that he hadn't battled in his 9-year NBA career. Leadership, a challenge which the Rainman approached in his own unique way.
One of the things I've always said is that just don't talk a lot, always lead by example. So one of the things I want to do is come into the season and play well and let the guys see where I came from.
Shawn's guidance of his young squad, plus his incredible performances and insane feats of athleticism,
Started strong, baseline, boom! Shawn Kemp with that quick punch on the baseline, and one coming as he took Alonzo Mourning and just finished him off.
would see Kemp go on to achieve some incredible things. Firstly, the Rainman was named to his 6th All-Star team in a row, and finally, the Cleveland Cavaliers, despite their youthful roster, had managed to win enough games to face the Indiana Pacers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Yet, despite their superstar averaging 26 points, 11 boards, and a block per night during games 1 and 2, it was unfortunately the higher seeded Pacers who were just a single win away from moving on to the second round. But unlike his tenure with the Sonics, the Cavaliers' fate relied solely on Shawn and nobody else. So was he actually capable of carrying Cleveland? April 27th, 1998.
Kemp from the corner. Shawn Kemp hitting his second basket of the game. Kemp told his team, "I've been part of a club that was up 2 and blew a series."
Shawn the Rainman Kemp would open this must-win battle with force.
He is guarded by Rick Smits, and Kemp goes strong to the hoop.
And then continue to showcase not only his insane athletic talents, but his ability to play out of various actions such as the pick and roll.
Kemp driving to the basket.
However, with 1 minute remaining and only up 3 points, Shawn Kemp was fouled, missed these free throws, and Indiana has a chance to come back, make them, and place your Cavaliers 1 win closer from moving on.
8 from the line, as Hubie mentioned, if you go to the line 8 times, you're doing the job. He now has 28 points, minutes of this game, and he has carried this team on his massive shoulders tonight.
He's been very big.
Not only had the Rainman saved the game at the line, but Kemp would place the cherry on top of their victory by doing this.
Kemp will have to put it up from outside. He hits, and that may be the one that breaks the back of the Pacers tonight.
So, could they really tie the series and force a final game in Indiana? 3 days later, while Shawn Kemp had saved his franchise in Game 3, the Indiana Pacers, a team with championship aspirations, would adjust their defense accordingly. Therefore, the Rainman, despite still scoring 21 points, had shot a horrible 37% from the field during Game 4, an unfortunate fact which saw Cleveland heading home empty-handed. But things were only about to get worse.
Negotiations are ongoing between the league and the Players Association for a new collective bargaining agreement. The current contract expires June 30th, and if a new agreement is not in place by then, a lockout or possibly a moratorium on league business could begin.
Due to a disagreement between the NBA owners and their players, the 1998-1999 season started in a lockout. And due to how long it was taking for this problem to be resolved, many players, including Shawn Kemp, simply assumed the league wasn't going to return.
Call now, 1-800-TALL-MEN. But hurry, because who knows when our season's gonna start.
However, when the NBA did eventually come back in February of 1999, issues began to arise for Shawn. Firstly, the ex-Sonic arrived into training camp roughly 35 pounds overweight. Yet, while many assumed this was a bad thing, the extra pounds, while they did take away a lot of the Rainman's athletic prowess, did assist in another area of his game. You see, the Eastern Conference, which was filled with dominant centers such as Patrick Ewing and was generally viewed as being more physical, Kemp's extra weight helped him to better rebound and score against larger opponents. In fact, despite being out of shape, Shawn would set a brand new career high, averaging 20.5 points per game in the shortened 1998-1999 season. Yet, it was the excess mass which derailed everything. Because after trying to save the ball from going out of bounds in a late April game, Shawn injured his foot and was ruled out for the remainder of the season. While it's hard to say if the extra weight directly caused this injury, it likely heavily contributed. Pun not intended, I just realized that, never mind. But this wasn't the only negative for Kemp. In fact, this is where things started to go seriously downhill. As during the 1999-2000 season, Shawn not only failed to shed the extra pounds, but his sudden decline in production saw Jim Paxson, Cleveland's general manager, looking forward to a future without Shawn Kemp. Therefore, a sign and trade was executed between the Portland TrailBlazers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But it was in Portland where another one of Shawn's issues came to light, because as the 2001 season was coming to a close, Kemp, after only averaging just 6.5 points off the bench for the Blazers, checked himself into a rehabilitation facility to help with his addictions. A fact which, when combined with Kemp's struggles with his 7 children with 6 separate mothers and alleged alcohol issues, saw the Rainman's epic career slowly slipping away. While Shawn Kemp would return for the 2001-2002 season, the iconic nickname which he had earned during his second year in Seattle had been replaced, with fans now referring to the Portland backup as Fat Kemp, a tragic nickname which only followed him as he tried to revive his career with the Orlando Magic during the 2002-2003 season. And it was in Florida where the incredible story of the former 17th pick came to a close. Shawn Kemp's amazing 8-season run with the Seattle SuperSonics was ultimately overshadowed by reports of alcohol abuse, drug addiction, and overeating during his final 6 years in the NBA, a truly devastating, self-inflicted end to what was one of the most amazing, awe-inspiring careers of all time, and likely a huge reason why, despite deserving a spot in it, Shawn Kemp has never been enshrined into the Naismith Hall of Fame. So, what do you think? Do you believe that the Rainman should be in the Hall of Fame? If so, let me know why as well down below in the comments. Also, did you know that the NBA's greatest shooter is also its best showboater? Stephen Curry, a 4-time champion and 2-time MVP, has not only literally changed the way basketball is played, but also introduced us to some of the greatest celebrations of all time. So, if you want to learn more about these amazing showboats, how they all began, and why many fans believe that Steph Curry ruined basketball, click the video on your screen right now.